Listen to me, there comes a moment in every life when the ground beneath you starts to shake, when what you've built begins to crumble, and when the voices in your head whisper, maybe this is it. Maybe it's time to quit. But deep inside, there's another voice, stronger, quieter, yet unbreakable. It says, no, get up, stand firm, fight. That voice is not fear. It's not pride. It's not ego. It's God. Because sometimes God doesn't call you to run from the battle. He calls you to face it head on. Sometimes he doesn't calm the storm. He teaches you how to stand in the rain, sword in hand, eyes locked on the promise. You see, we all love the idea of peace, blessing, and breakthrough. But there are seasons when God's command is not rest, it's fight. When he says fight, he's not asking you to destroy others. He's calling you to conquer the fear that's been destroying you. He's calling you to silence the voice that says, you're not enough, to shatter the walls of limitation that have kept you small, and to claim what he already placed inside you from the beginning. You were not made to live defeated. You were not made to bow to anxiety, addiction, or doubt. You were made for victory. And victory is not a feeling, it's a decision. It's a choice to stand when your knees shake, to believe when nothing makes sense, to praise when the battle hasn't ended yet. When God said fight, he wasn't sending you into war alone. He was sending you into destiny with his strength. He knew that every weapon formed against you would fail, not because it wouldn't be aimed at you, but because it wouldn't be able to stop you. Every champion you admire has fought battles you never saw. They've wrestled in silence, cried in private, and bled in secret. But they didn't give up. They fought. They got up again. They took another step. And that's what God is asking you, take another step. You've cried enough tears over what you lost. You've replayed enough memories of what didn't work. You've blamed, doubted, and delayed long enough. Now it's time to move. Not with fear, but with faith. Not with anger, but with authority. God doesn't choose the strong. He strengthens the chosen. And that's you. The reason the battle has been so intense is because the purpose over your life is enormous. The enemy wouldn't attack what isn't valuable. He knows if you rise, if you truly rise, hell loses ground. So stand up, shake off the dust, lift your head. The fire you feel inside you, it's not frustration, it's your calling burning to be released. You weren't meant to live hiding from your fight. You were meant to own it, to grow through it, to win it. You may be tired, you may be bleeding, you may not know how this ends, but if God said fight, then victory's already written in your favor. Your job is not to predict the outcome. Your job is to show up with faith, to say, I don't know how, but I know who. The same God who told David to face Goliath, who told Moses to stand before the Red Sea, who told Joshua to march around Jericho, that's the same God who is telling you, don't you dare back down now. The wall in front of you is not the end, it's the beginning of your testimony. The battle you're in is not punishment, it's preparation. And the struggle you feel is proof that something powerful is being born inside you. So fight not with fists, but with faith. Not with bitterness, but with boldness. Fight for your purpose. Fight for your peace. Fight for your future. Because when God said fight, he was really saying, I'm with you. And if he's with you, you can't lose. Now take a breath. Straighten your shoulders. Step back into the ring. This is your moment. This is your time. The world doesn't need a quieter version of you. It needs the fighter God created you to be. God said fight, so rise and win. When God calls you into battle, it rarely feels like an invitation. It feels like disruption. The comfortable rhythm of your life begins to shake, and suddenly the things you thought were stable start to feel uncertain. You question why doors that once opened are now closing, why peace has turned into pressure, and why the quiet seasons have been replaced by conflict. But here's what we often miss. Sometimes this shaking isn't the enemy's work, it's God's preparation. Because when he wants to grow you, he doesn't hand you ease, he hands you a challenge that forces you to rise into the person he already knows you can be. When God said fight, he wasn't setting you up for defeat, he was inviting you to discover your power. Every warrior has a calling moment, and it never comes when they feel ready. David didn't wake up planning to face a giant. Gideon didn't believe he was strong enough to lead an army. Moses didn't think he was qualified to stand before Pharaoh. Yet when the call came, they didn't have time to negotiate with fear. They had to move with faith. because God's call to battle isn't about comfort, it's about obedience. It's about trusting that the one who called you into the fight has already seen the victory waiting on the other side. The call to battle is a divine interruption, a moment when God says, enough hiding behind what you used to be. Step into what I made you to be. It's when he exposes your hidden strength, the kind you didn't know existed until life pushed you to your knees. Some of the greatest victories are born out of the darkest valleys. And the fiercest warriors are not the ones who never fell, they're the ones who kept getting back up. The reason God allows certain storms is not to break you, but to awaken you, to remind you that faith without resistance is fragile and courage without confrontation is shallow. When God calls you to fight, he's not just preparing you to win battles. He's preparing you to become someone who can carry his power responsibly. He knows that comfort breeds complacency and complacency kills purpose. So he disturbs the peace not to punish you, but to push you into destiny. That's why some of your greatest growth has come from your greatest pain. The very thing that tried to destroy you became the tool God used to define you. There's a reason he said fight and not flee. Because in every battle, there's a lesson you can't learn anywhere else. There's a version of yourself that only emerges when you're tested. When life hits hard, you start discovering what's real and what's not. You find out that your faith isn't just a concept, it's your oxygen. You realize that the presence of the fight doesn't mean God left. It means he's trusting you to walk in the authority placed within you. Some people spend their entire lives praying for God to remove the battle, when in fact, he designed them to overcome. He didn't call you to live running from difficulty. He called you to transform it. The challenge in front of you is not random, it's customized. God knows exactly which pressure will reveal your power. Every battle is tailored to unlock something inside of you that peace could never touch. Think about it. No one becomes strong in the absence of resistance. A bodybuilder doesn't gain muscle by lifting light weights. The heavier the weight, the stronger the growth. It's the same in your spirit. Every hardship, every test, every disappointment, it's spiritual weight training. God is building endurance in you because he knows what's coming. He's preparing you to stand when others collapse. He's shaping your character so that when your moment comes, you're not fragile, you're fortified. The call to battle always exposes what's been hiding. It reveals whether your faith is based on feelings or on conviction. It separates those who talk about belief from those who live it. Because when you're in a fight, you don't have time for shallow faith. You have to know what you believe. You have to know that even when everything looks against you, the power inside you is greater than anything around you. God's call to fight is really a call to identity. He's saying, you are not who the world said you were. You're not your failures, your fears, or your past. You are chosen, equipped, and anointed. Sometimes the only way he can prove that to you is by allowing a battle that forces you to discover it. If life was always smooth, you'd never need courage. You'd never experience the depth of his strength flowing through you. So when the fight shows up, it's not a sign that God forgot you, it's proof that he's ready to reveal you. It's easy to praise when everything's good. It's easy to believe when the outcome is clear. But true faith is forged in fire. It's when your plans fall apart, your strength runs out, and yet you still choose to say, God, I trust you. That's where spiritual authority is born. That's where heaven meets earth when a human heart refuses to bow to fear. The call to battle is an invitation to see what God can do through a surrendered life. It's not about fighting for him, it's about fighting with him. Every warrior who's ever stood in faith had a moment of fear, but they didn't let fear dictate their response. They remembered the call. They remembered who sent them. Because when God calls you to fight, he doesn't just give you permission, he gives you power. He gives you endurance, focus, and divine strategy. He trains your hands for war and your heart for worship. And somewhere in the middle of the battle, you realize you're not the same person who started it. The fear that once controlled you has lost its grip. The doubt that once limited you has no authority. You begin to walk differently, talk differently, pray differently. You move with quiet confidence because you've seen God sustain you in places you thought would destroy you. And that's the beauty of the call. It transforms you. It refines your spirit. It separates the temporary from the eternal. It reminds you that the God who called you into the fight has already gone before you, preparing the path, aligning the pieces, setting the stage for victory. Even when you don't feel it, even when you don't see it. The fight you're in is not chaos, it's construction. God is building something in you that peace alone could never produce. He's shaping you into someone who doesn't just survive battles, but leads others through them. So when the call comes, when everything inside you says, this is too hard, too much, too soon, remember that it's not the end of something, it's the beginning of strength you've never known. God doesn't call the comfortable, he calls the capable. And he makes you capable by calling you into the fight. When you step into a fight that God has called you to, you have to understand something vital. You're not fighting for victory, you're fighting from it. That shift in perspective changes everything. It changes how you see your opposition, how you handle setbacks, and how you carry yourself when the pressure is on. The moment God called you his own, the battle was already decided. The outcome was already written in your favor. You're not fighting to prove that you're strong enough, worthy enough, or faithful enough. You're fighting to remind everything around you that victory has already been declared. The fight is not about gaining something, it's about enforcing what heaven already promised you. So many people step into life's battles like victims trying to earn victory, hoping that maybe if they work hard enough or pray long enough, they'll somehow deserve to win. But when you understand that the victory is already yours, you stop fighting out of fear and start fighting out of faith. You stop asking, will I make it? And start declaring, I'm made for this. The ground you're standing on is not uncertain, it's sacred. You're not entering the battle to earn approval, you're entering to display authority. Fighting from victory means your confidence isn't tied to how things look. Even when it seems like everything is against you, you know that the story doesn't end there. It's the same power that allowed David to run toward Goliath with a sling and a stone. He wasn't trying to win. He was walking into a victory that was already his because God had already chosen him. It's the same faith that allowed Joshua to march around Jericho before a single wall fell. He didn't need to see it happen first. He knew the outcome was already written. When you fight from victory, you stop measuring your progress by what's visible and start measuring it by what's promised. There's a peace that comes with knowing the battle is won, even when you're still in it. You might still be swinging, still standing in the storm, still feeling the heat of the fire, but there's a quiet authority that says, I've read the end of this story. You begin to realize that every attack, every obstacle, every delay is just an opportunity for God to show himself strong. You don't panic when things shake because you understand that nothing can cancel what's already been completed. When God declares victory, he doesn't take it back. He doesn't need to revise his word or renegotiate the outcome. You may still have to walk through the process, but the process is not proof of defeat, it's proof of development. God lets you go through the battle, not to decide whether you win, but to help you grow into the kind of person who can carry the victory with integrity. Some people want the prize without the process, but real power is developed in the middle of resistance. It's in the moments when you have to remind yourself, I already have the victory, even if I can't see it yet. The enemy knows he can't take your victory, so he tries to convince you that you don't have it. That's why the greatest battlefield is not around you, it's within you. If he can get you to believe that you're still fighting to win, he can exhaust you with striving, fear, and frustration. But when you realize that you're fighting from victory, his lies lose their grip. You begin to operate with calm strength, with spiritual clarity, with the assurance that what's yours can't be stolen. You fight differently when you know the end is secure. This truth also changes how you view failure. When you're fighting from victory, failure doesn't define you, it refines you. Every setback becomes a setup. Every delay becomes direction. Every closed door becomes protection. Because you're not trying to make victory happen, you're watching it unfold in real time. The struggle is not evidence that God abandoned you, it's proof that he's positioning you. He's shaping your heart to handle what's already been written in heaven. When you understand that victory is already established, you stop begging and start believing. You stop asking for what's already yours and start walking like it belongs to you. You stop praying small, fearful prayers and start declaring bold, faith-filled words. You lift your head a little higher because you know that no weapon formed against you will prosper, not because the weapon won't come, but because it can't win. That's what it means to fight from victory. You might take hits, but you don't stay down. You might face loss, but you don't lose your identity. You might be outnumbered, but you're never outpowered. Think about it. Jesus didn't go to the cross to hope for victory. He went to enforce it. The cross wasn't the end of the fight. It was the declaration that the fight was finished. And when he said, "It is finished," that word echoed through eternity. Every time you face a battle, that same declaration still stands over your life. It is finished. That means the addiction that tried to break you, the fear that tried to silence you, the doubt that tried to paralyze you, they're already defeated. They only have the power you continue to give them. When you live with this mindset, you become unshakable. You stop reacting to the chaos and start responding with conviction. You stop living by what you see and start standing on what you know. That's what separates those who collapse in battle from those who rise. It's not that one has more strength, it's that one understands where their strength comes from. When you fight from victory, you realize you're not trying to earn God's favor, you're moving in it. You're not trying to prove your worth, you're walking in your inheritance. This truth also transforms how you treat others in the fight. You no longer see people as opponents, you see them as opportunities for grace. Because when you know the victory is secure, you don't need to tear anyone else down to rise. You can fight with peace in your heart and purpose in your hands. You can love your enemies because you're not threatened by them. You can forgive easily because you know bitterness only distracts you from your destiny. That's the posture of someone who fights from victory, not with clenched fists, but with open hands and a steady spirit. There will be days when your feelings don't match your faith, when the pressure feels heavier than your strength. But that's when you remind yourself, feelings are temporary, truth is eternal. Victory is not an emotion, it's a position, and your position is secure. The same power that raised Jesus from the dead lives inside you. That means you're never fighting alone, never walking blind, never standing powerless. Even in moments of silence, heaven is still backing you. Fighting from victory also gives you endurance. You can keep going when others quit because you know the outcome is already sealed. You don't have to rush or panic. You can move with patience and precision. You understand that God's timing is not a delay, it's design. Every step, every struggle, every season has purpose. You may not see how it connects yet, but when it does, you'll realize that even the pain was working in your favor. When you fight from victory, you stop fearing battles and start seeing them as opportunities to reveal who you really are. You stop praying, "God, take it away," and start saying, "God, strengthen me for it." You stop seeing obstacles as punishment and start recognizing them as platforms. You stop chasing peace and start carrying it with you. You stop worrying about losing because losing is impossible when the victory was decided before the fight began. So when you step into that next challenge, when you face that next obstacle, when the pressure rises and everything inside you wants to retreat, pause and remember who you are and whose you are. The battle doesn't define you, the victory already does. The fight isn't to prove anything to God, it's to remind the world that he's already done it all. You're not fighting to win, you're fighting because you've already won. Every battle in your life carries a message about your purpose. The enemy doesn't waste his energy on people who pose no threat. The greater your calling, the greater the conflict. The attacks that come against you are not random. They are strategic. They are designed to distract you, to drain you, to make you doubt the very thing God placed inside you. When the enemy targets you, it's confirmation that heaven has marked you. You are not under attack because you are weak, you are under attack because you are significant. Something in you terrifies the darkness. Something in you carries light so powerful that hell trembles when you wake up in the morning. That's why your life feels like a fight, because it is one. When you start walking toward your destiny, opposition increases. The moment you step out in faith, resistance shows up. It's not proof that you're going the wrong way, it's proof that you're finally walking the right one. The enemy doesn't chase people standing still, he chases those moving toward transformation. Every great purpose attracts pressure. Every divine assignment invites attack. That's why the closer you get to breakthrough, the more chaos seems to appear. It's like the universe itself is testing your resolve, asking, do you really believe what you say you believe? But the truth is, it's not the universe, it's the enemy trying to convince you to surrender what God already promised you. The enemy's goal isn't to destroy your potential, it's to disconnect you from it. He can't take away your anointing, but he can distract you until you stop walking in it. He knows he can't remove your destiny, so he tries to make you doubt it. He uses fear, delay, disappointment, and comparison as weapons. He whispers lies that sound like logic. Maybe you're not ready. Maybe this isn't the right time. Maybe you heard wrong. And if you're not careful, you start agreeing with the lies instead of standing on the truth. You begin to shrink, to hesitate, to question your worth. That's exactly what he wants, because a distracted believer is as powerless as a defeated one. The attacks you face are not just about where you are, they're about where you're going. The enemy sees your future more clearly than you sometimes see it yourself. He knows that if you ever fully believe who God says you are, nothing could stop you. So he attacks early. He attacks your confidence, your identity, your relationships, your peace, anything that can keep you from realizing your authority. He wants you to believe that the struggle means God abandoned you. But what if the struggle is proof that you're carrying something powerful? What if the pressure is the evidence of potential? What if the fight is the confirmation of favor? Some of the battles you face have nothing to do with what you did wrong. They have everything to do with what you're about to do right. The enemy doesn't just attack the present, he attacks the future. He's trying to sabotage what's coming next. That's why you have to learn to recognize spiritual warfare for what it is. It's not just bad luck or coincidence, it's a calculated effort to keep you from stepping into your divine assignment. Every attack has a pattern, and if you look closely, you'll see it. The same fears that hit you before a breakthrough are the same ones that show up again and again trying to wear you down. But here's the power in knowing that the enemy targets purpose. It allows you to stop taking the battle personally. You stop seeing yourself as cursed and start realizing you're chosen. You stop asking why me and start saying, of course me, of course I'm being attacked. There's something in me the enemy doesn't want to see released. Of course I'm facing pressure. There's something about to break loose in my life. Of course there's resistance. There's revelation right around the corner. That shift changes how you handle everything. Instead of retreating, you lean in. Instead of doubting, you dig deeper. Instead of running from the fight, you rise to meet it. The enemy can't stand a believer who knows their worth. When you understand that your pain has purpose, his power over you breaks. You start seeing the storm differently. You realize it's not there to destroy you, but to develop you. Every blow becomes a lesson. Every disappointment becomes direction. Every closed door becomes divine protection. What the enemy meant for harm becomes the very thing that strengthens your spirit. The more he pushes, the stronger you get. The more he tries to silence you, the louder your faith becomes. Because once you know the truth, you can't be intimidated anymore. Think of Joseph, thrown into a pit by his own brothers, sold into slavery, falsely accused, and imprisoned, all before stepping into the palace God had promised. Every betrayal was an attack on his purpose, not his person. The enemy was trying to kill the dream before it could manifest. But what Joseph carried inside him couldn't be stopped by betrayal, lies, or bars. His calling was too powerful to be buried, and yours is too. What's been attacking you isn't a coincidence, it's a clue. It's evidence that you're carrying something world-changing. The enemy studies your life because he's terrified of your potential. He knows your weaknesses, yes, but he also knows your strengths. He knows the kind of influence you could have if you ever operated fully in faith. That's why he sends distractions disguised as opportunities, confusion disguised as choices, exhaustion disguised as normal life. He's hoping to keep you busy enough to never confront your own greatness. Because the moment you do, the game changes. The moment you wake up to your identity, the battle shifts in your favor. When you understand that the enemy targets purpose, you stop fighting small battles. You stop wasting time proving your value to people who don't see it. You stop arguing over things that don't matter. You become laser focused on your mission. You protect your peace like it's sacred, because it is. You learn to pray not just for escape, but for endurance. You start recognizing attacks before they even land. You become strategic, discerning, and spiritually alert. You stop reacting emotionally and start responding spiritually. You realize that not every conflict deserves your energy, only the ones that align with your assignment. And here's something powerful. The very thing the enemy uses to attack you often becomes the area of your greatest anointing. The pain that tried to break you becomes the story that heals others. The weakness that embarrassed you becomes the testimony that empowers you. The season that drained you becomes the wisdom that equips you. God has a way of recycling everything the enemy meant for destruction and turning it into destiny. So when you feel targeted, don't crumble, take inventory. Ask yourself, what is the enemy so afraid of? Because that's where your calling is hidden. The more valuable the cargo, the stronger the attack. No thief breaks into an empty house. So if the enemy has been relentless, that should tell you something. You're carrying treasure, you're carrying influence, healing, purpose, and legacy. And that's exactly why he's been trying to distract, discourage, and discredit you. But every time you rise again, every time you refuse to quit, every time you choose faith over fear, you remind him that he lost this fight a long time ago. When the attacks feel heavy, when the nights feel long, when the pressure feels unbearable, remember that the enemy only attacks what threatens him. You are not the problem, you're the proof of promise. The battle's not a punishment, it's a prophecy. It's a sign that you're getting closer. It's a signal that something is about to shift. So don't mistake warfare for abandonment. Don't misinterpret pain as punishment. The enemy wouldn't fight you this hard if there wasn't something powerful waiting on the other side. When God calls you to fight, he is calling you to a higher level of faith than you've ever experienced. The battles you face are not random accidents. They are divinely orchestrated opportunities for growth, strength, and revelation. The call to fight is not about winning by human standards. It is about stepping into the power and authority that God has already placed within you. Every challenge, every opposition, every obstacle is an invitation to discover the depth of his presence in your life. It's easy to feel defeated when the enemy surrounds you, when circumstances seem impossible, or when your strength feels depleted. But the very fact that God has called you to fight means that he believes in your ability to rise above it. He sees what you cannot yet see, and he knows that you are capable of more than you give yourself credit for. The first thing to understand is that God's call to fight is not a reflection of your weakness, it is a recognition of your potential. Many people look at their circumstances and assume that difficulty equals failure, but in God's economy, difficulty equals opportunity. The challenge is a signal that you are standing at the threshold of something greater. When God calls you to fight, it is because he has already equipped you with the tools you need to prevail. You may feel unprepared, overwhelmed, or inadequate, but God has placed within you every resource, every talent, and every ounce of courage necessary to confront the situation before you. Every battle has a purpose. It is never just about surviving or enduring. It is about transformation. The fight is designed to strengthen your faith, sharpen your focus, and refine your character. Consider the stories of those in Scripture who were called to fight. David faced Goliath not because he was the biggest, the strongest, or the most experienced, but because God had prepared him to see the victory before the battle began. Moses faced Pharaoh not because he had the authority to command armies, but because God had already given him the vision, the strategy, and the power to lead a nation to freedom. Joshua faced walls that seemed impossible to overcome, but the power of God had already paved the way for triumph. In each case, the fight was not about whether they could succeed on their own. It was about learning to rely on the divine strength that was already at work within them. Fighting in the way God calls you to fight requires a shift in perspective. You must move from fear to faith, from doubt to determination, and from hesitation to boldness. Many people retreat in the face of conflict because they measure their capacity by what they see in the natural world, but God calls you to see beyond the visible. He calls you to trust in his promises, to stand firm on his word, and to act even when the outcome seems uncertain. Faith is not passive, it is active. It requires stepping into the fire, standing in the storm, and moving forward with confidence, knowing that God is with you. One of the greatest challenges in any fight is resisting the voice of the enemy. The enemy will try to convince you that you are alone, unworthy, or incapable. He will exploit your fears, replay your past failures, and magnify your insecurities in order to shake your confidence. But when God calls you to fight, he is also calling you to rise above the lies and stand on the truth of his word. Every time you choose to believe his promises over the enemy's lies, you grow stronger, wiser, and more resilient. The fight becomes less about what is happening around you and more about what is happening within you, the development of your spirit, the growth of your courage, and the strengthening of your resolve. Preparation is also a critical aspect of fighting the way God commands. The battles he calls you to are never random, they are purposeful, and they require intentionality. Spiritual preparation, mental focus, and emotional resilience are all part of the equation. God often allows seasons of training and testing to equip you for the moments when you will be called to stand. These seasons may feel long, uncomfortable, or even painful, but they are the workshops in which your faith is built. Each challenge you face, each moment of waiting, and each obstacle you overcome is preparing you for the greater victories that lie ahead. Persistence is another essential element. Fighting the way God calls you to, fight is not a sprint, it is a marathon. There will be moments when exhaustion sets in, when hope feels distant, and when the path ahead seems unclear. But perseverance is what separates those who succeed from those who give up. Every time you rise after a setback, every time you continue despite discouragement, and every time you choose to trust God when it would be easier to quit, you are stepping closer to the fulfillment of his plan. Persistence is not just about enduring, it is about demonstrating faith in action, showing that your commitment to God's purpose is stronger than any challenge you face. Courage is also indispensable. The fight God calls you to often requires you to stand against the tide, to face opposition head on, and to move forward when others would retreat. Courage is not the absence of fear, it is the choice to act in spite of fear. It is trusting that God's strength is sufficient for every challenge, that his wisdom will guide you through uncertainty, and that his power will sustain you even when the odds seem impossible. Courage allows you to step into the arena to confront the trials before you and to demonstrate that God's authority over your life is greater than any obstacle. Another key principle is reliance on God's strength rather than your own. Human strength is limited, and battles fought in the flesh are often lost. When God calls you to fight, he calls you to depend on his power, his wisdom, and his provision. Prayer, spiritual discernment, and surrender to his will are vital components of fighting effectively. By acknowledging that victory comes through God, not through your own ability, you align yourself with the divine source of power that guarantees success. This reliance transforms the fight from a struggle of human effort into a demonstration of divine authority. The call to fight also involves recognizing the strategic nature of your battles. God often allows specific challenges to come into your life for reasons beyond what you can see. The opposition you face may be shaping your character, developing your leadership, or positioning you for future opportunities. Every struggle has a lesson, every setback has a purpose, and every moment of difficulty is a chance to strengthen your faith. By viewing your battles through the lens of purpose, you can approach them with clarity, confidence, and courage. Finally, God's call to fight is a call to transformation. The battles you face are not just about surviving, they are about becoming the person God created you to be. Every fight, every challenge, every opposition has the potential to refine your character, deepen your faith, and reveal your true strength. The process of fighting develops perseverance, courage, wisdom, and spiritual authority. It equips you to lead, inspire, and influence others. The fight is never wasted when God is involved. Each battle is shaping you into a vessel capable of carrying his power, fulfilling his purpose, and impacting the world in ways that only you can. When you step into the fight that God calls you to, you do so with the understanding that he is with you, that victory has already been established, and that every challenge is an opportunity to grow into the fullness of your calling. You fight not for recognition, not for reward, and not for approval, but because God has declared that you are equipped, chosen, and empowered to stand. Every struggle becomes a testament to his faithfulness. Every victory becomes a reflection of his glory, and every moment of perseverance strengthens the foundation of your faith. When God says fight, he is calling you to step into the full measure of your identity and purpose. This is not a casual suggestion or a temporary challenge. It is a divine invitation to rise, to push past every limitation, and to embrace the power he has placed inside of you. The call to fight is never about chaos or confusion. It is about clarity, courage, and commitment. When the battle comes, it is not the enemy who determines the outcome. It is your willingness to stand, to trust, and to act in alignment with God's plan. Every moment of struggle is a proving ground for the strength, character, and faith that God is cultivating within you. To fight as God commands is to understand that victory is not always immediate. Many people retreat because they expect the fight to be easy, short, or predictable. But God's battles are designed to stretch you, refine you, and teach you lessons that peace never could. The trials you face are not arbitrary. They are strategically placed to awaken strength you didn't know you had, to reveal courage that was buried, and to stretch your faith beyond what you thought was possible. When you embrace the fight, you begin to see it not as punishment, but as preparation. You begin to understand that God's timing, his methods, and his wisdom are perfect even when the process is difficult. Faith is the foundation of every battle God calls you to. Fighting in the natural without faith is exhausting and often futile, but fighting in faith allows you to operate in alignment with the unseen power that has already secured victory on your behalf. Faith is not a passive hope. It is an active choice to trust God's promises, to stand firm in his word, and to take action even when circumstances seem impossible. When you fight in faith, the forces arrayed against you may still attempt to intimidate, delay, or confuse, but they cannot prevail against the authority that God has placed within you. Faith transforms fear into focus, doubt into determination, and struggle into opportunity. Preparation is another critical aspect of fighting in God's strength. The battles you face are often preceded by seasons of training, testing, and refinement. These seasons may feel long, uncomfortable, or even painful, but they are designed to equip you for the moment when God calls you to rise. Preparation includes developing spiritual discernment, strengthening your character, and learning to rely on God rather than your own understanding. Every challenge you overcome in preparation becomes a tool you can wield when the real battle begins. The more intentional you are in preparation, the more effective you become in executing God's plan for your life. Persistence is key when God calls you to fight. There will be moments when the pressure is intense, when hope seems distant, and when the weight of the struggle feels overwhelming. It is in these moments that persistence determines whether you rise or retreat. To persist is to keep moving forward even when progress seems invisible, to maintain faith when the outcome is unclear, and to continue standing when others would quit. Persistence is not about stubbornness. It is about a disciplined trust in God's plan and the certainty that the fight is worth enduring. Every time you persist, you grow stronger, wiser, and more resilient. Courage is an indispensable element of fighting the battles God has set before you. Courage is not the absence of fear. It is the willingness to act in spite of fear. It is choosing to stand when the path is uncertain, to speak truth when others are silent, and to move forward when the world expects you to retreat. Courage allows you to confront opposition without compromise, to face adversity without panic, and to lead with authority even when the stakes are high. The call to fight is a call to embrace courage, knowing that God's power is greater than any challenge you face. Relying on God's strength is fundamental. Human effort alone is insufficient for the battles God calls you to fight. Victory requires surrender, dependence, and alignment with his will. Prayer, worship, and spiritual discernment are essential tools in the fight. By relying on God's strength rather than your own, you position yourself to operate under divine authority. This reliance ensures that your fight is not motivated by ego, fear, or desperation, but by faith, obedience, and a clear understanding of God's purpose for your life. When you depend on him, you access wisdom, strategy, and power that far exceed anything human capability could achieve. Understanding the strategic nature of battles is another key principle. The challenges you face are not random. They are opportunities for growth, preparation, and advancement. Every obstacle, every opposition, and every hardship carries a lesson designed to strengthen your faith, refine your character, and align you with your destiny. The fight is not just about surviving, it is about thriving. It is about discovering hidden strength, uncovering latent potential, and walking in alignment with God's design for your life. By approaching battles with purpose and perspective, you become an active participant in the unfolding of your destiny. Every fight is also a test of resilience. Life will challenge you in ways that feel unfair, overwhelming, or insurmountable. The enemy will attempt to exploit weaknesses, magnify insecurities, and create doubt. But resilience is built through facing these challenges with faith, patience, and determination. It is developed in moments of discomfort, trial, and pressure. The more you rise after each setback, the more you demonstrate your capacity to endure, overcome, and succeed. Resilience ensures that when the battle intensifies, you are not shaken, discouraged, or defeated. You are strengthened, focused, and ready to continue. The call to fight is also a call to maturity. Battles are not merely external, they are internal. They reveal the depth of your faith, the strength of your character, and the maturity of your spirit. God uses fights to teach patience, humility, discernment, and persistence. Every victory, setback, and challenge contributes to your growth as a leader, a believer, and a person of influence. The lessons learned in the midst of struggle prepare you to handle greater responsibility, to guide others through their own battles, and to walk in the fullness of your calling. Finally, fighting as God calls you to fight is about transformation. Every challenge, every trial, and every opposition is shaping you into the person God created you to be. The fight is not wasted, even when it is difficult. It develops endurance, courage, faith, and wisdom. It equips you to fulfill your purpose, impact others, and leave a legacy. God's call to fight is a call to embrace your identity, step into your power, and live with boldness, knowing that victory has already been established, strength has already been provided, and every challenge is an opportunity for growth and revelation. When you answer the call to fight, you step into a higher level of faith, power, and purpose. You fight with courage, persistence, and reliance on God. You approach challenges with clarity, understanding, and determination. You transform opposition into opportunity, struggle into strength, and pressure into preparation. Every battle is a stepping stone, every fight is a lesson, and every victory is a testimony of God's faithfulness. The call to fight is not just about facing challenges, it is about embracing the process, discovering your potential, and walking fully into the destiny God has ordained for you.